The knight takes hold of the dead woman by her hair and declares that the witch Owen is dead. And now Clan Leth. It is all over. The girl stares at her dead mother in horror and starts screaming in sorrow. As soon as the girl had moved, dozens of swords were instantly pointed at her. The knights talk about how Owen's daughter stands before them and decide what to do with her next. One of the guards makes himself heard that the girl should be taken to the crown prince as a trophy. The girl stares at the knights with anger and believes her mother is dead, and her clan was destroyed. Nomads of the Leth clan, little people who came out from the Alita plateau. From the start, they had black skin and hair. They were said to be on the other side of the world, foolish people who tried to prove themselves great by staying to themselves. Other people were branded during the Blanche Kingdom conquest. Many of the clan people were slaughtered, so they were forced to leave their homes. 300 years have passed since then, and things took a new turn. The Left Behind clan changed its name from Alita to Lita. The skin and hair that had all been black slowly changed color. Nomads roamed around the country, performing, and thus making their living. The memory of their persecution decreased little by little, and Letha could have been a culture if there hadn't been the civil war in Blanche. Needing a new enemy of the people, first Prince Waldo Blanche looks at the girl with interest and inquires her name. The young woman is on the ground, shivering the entire time, and responds, that she has the name Martina. The prince takes the girl by the chin and scornfully says that she has a suitable name for a mudblood. Waldo's face turns nasty, and he says Martina will be great fun for the rest of the night. The heir came up with a plan for a win-win maneuver by getting rid of all half-brothers vying for the seat of successor. Waldo was going to get rid of both sides, bringing Lita, who had been irritating him the entire time. The man tosses Martina on the bed and says it is useless to give up your name. People are afraid and shun what is different from themselves. The prince leans his entire body on the girl, who, with tears in her eyes, realizes that she can do nothing. The king declares that the first prince has managed to crush the escape of the second heir, who had revolted and had the support of a clan of witches. In appreciation of this, the ruler abdicates in favor of the legitimate heir, the first Prince Theodore Blanche. Theodore, who is in jail, sadly realizes that his death is not far. Waldo ordered the imprisonment of his brother, claiming that the nomads of Leth had confessed conspiring with him. Theodore attempted to justify himself and yelled out that he had been slanderously wronged. Sitting in the prison, the prince feels that he did not wish to be a king. Even though Waldo is his half-brother, he thought of him as his own. Suddenly, one man steps out from behind the other side of the bars, covered entirely in a cloak. Martina pushes back her hood and states that although Blanche's detested blood ran through the young man, she would let him live. The girl volunteers to work for the prince, but on the conditions that he lend her his vigor. Theodore regretfully observes that now he is entirely oppressed. He has neither power nor freedom remaining. Martina gazes at the prince, and in a low but firm voice states that she will murder the king. The girl cries out that Theodore must take his shame by using her as a tool of revenge. It was this encounter that formed the start of a relationship, which would endure 100 years. Some days afterwards, Waldo hosted a great festive supper in celebration of his coronation to the throne. Martina was tossed into the middle of the hall to everyone's delight. Suddenly, Waldo flings a sword at the girl and commands her to dance the well-known sword dance that her clan takes pride in. Martina comes to understand with hatred that in front of her lies the sword of slain Owen. Blanche wants to offer a sight from the emblem of the devastated clan. The king is sure, with a smile, that even ferocious bestiality cannot be subordinated. Even at the point of death, it tucks in its tail and becomes submissive. Martina accepts the sword and starts her mad dance, which makes every one of the assembled people pay attention to her. Suddenly, with one severe blow, the girl kills the king's guards. Waldo springs from the throne with terror. The angry king commands the other knights to kill the useless witch at once. The crowd parted, and Prince Theodore approached the throne with guards following him. The brother glances at the king with contempt and inquires if he is enjoying the celebration. The knight inquires of Theodore if it is worth it to command the soldiers. The prince glances reflectively in the direction of Martina. With amazing dexterity, power, and grace, the girl handles all the soldiers attacking her. Martina said that sword dancing is not just a show program. This sword is designed to kill human beings. Theodore was certain that no matter how proficient the girl is in wielding the sword, she probably won't be able to leave there alive. The second prince orders doors to be closed and to make sure nobody can leave the hall. Even if Waldo must die, it's impossible to shame the royal family, so he wants to make everyone appear as the last crime of the witch. 2 hours pass, and the knights are amazed to find that not a single sound is audible beyond the doors. Despite the terror of the guard, Theodore commands the doors to be suddenly opened. The door creaks open with a forceful kick, and Martina stands at the threshold. The prince and guards look in awe at the girl from whom blood is flowing. No one has any idea how Martina was able to deal with everyone alive, because there were roughly 200 people in the hall. A girl with a sword in hand approaches the shaking Waldo, who pleads to spare his life. With a smile, Martina tells him that after all that had transpired, it is shameless for the king to beg for mercy. The brother looks towards Theodore in despair and begs him to save him from the mad witch. When he hears Waldo's words, the girl turns suddenly round and moves towards the second prince. Martina bows down before Theodore and asks her king's permission to behead the prince. After a moment, Theodore, with the least remorse, permits Martina to fulfill her desire. Thus, Waldo's reign came to an end, and Theodore left as the new king of the Blanche Empire. The new king gained the people's hearts by demonstrating him requesting God to forgive his brother's sins. On the coronation day of the Coron, Theodore gave the girl the nickname Mares, and ever since that time, she was called Mares. Martina Owen Data. Martina, the last of the Letha clan, was also given the nickname of the guardian of the royal clan. Martina was also called the Scarlet Sword, and her nickname spread across the continent. The nickname of the girl cast a shadow over the king, and ever since, the Empire of Blanche was also called the Scarlet Country. 8 years later, Letha was accused again of treason due to the selfish wishes of the king. Martina never imagined that Theodore Blanche could betray her. In the clan, the girl servant declares that even with the corrupting influence of the king, most are on the girl's side. The young man guarantees that Martina should use this opportunity and annihilate Blanche's standing. So the girl pushed the point of her sword against the palace with a large army behind her. Martina entered the throne room and furiously told the king that he deprived her of hope that he had vowed to give her. The mayors inquired as to why the king has betrayed her so brutally. Theodore gazes at the girl with sorrow and says that he does not have anything to say to her. Martina weeps in hopelessness, and the king is sorry for using her till the end. Theodore stands up quietly and pronounces that the girl may do whatever she wishes. King Theodore came to the same end as his brother, and Martina was proclaimed king. Much later, a lot of scientists were certain that the king loved Martina, but all this was only a theory. Attempts at annihilation and use of the Leth clan ended in the total annihilation of the royal bloodline. Later, Martina conquered the whole continent and thereby established the Carabla Empire. Following the reunification of the continent, the empress traveled south, leaving the throne to her faithful servant Alito. Until death, Martina never bore any children, and therefore the bloodline of the Letha clan came to an end. The teacher concludes by observing that none of the emperors has the luxury of carrying the surname Carabella ever since. The woman closes the book and states that only Empress Martina had the luxury of carrying this name. The teacher glances at the class. The boys and girls are very interested in the story they've just heard. The young girl stands, staring daydreamingly out of the window. It seems as though her mind is now very far away from Empress Martina. The teacher pushes his glasses up on the bridge of his nose and calls to the pupil with clear distaste. Only the third time that she hears her name, The girl turns and looks at the teacher in surprise. The teacher makes a sarcastic remark that clearly, history class is too simple for Atina. The woman is certain that the girl was staring out the window because she already knows the lesson material. The Pate Academy possesses the most talented brains that constitute the intellectual column of the Kerala Empire. Annually, students take stiff exams. If a student does not pass twice, he is immediately expelled. The professor cannot fathom how Astina manages to pass these exams and score high enough. The teacher resolves that this time, she will not activate the brakes on the girl's frivolity. The woman states Martina assisted Theodore in eliminating all his political opponents and inquires about how many noble families were burned within that period. The students glance at one another in fright. Such facts aren't even recorded in the book. Everyone glances at Atina, who glances at everybody and reflectively wraps her fingers up. The girl tells them that unless you include all the nobles who lost their homes, then 12 homes were burned. Discovering Ah escaped, the professor poses the following question. Princess Selin, Theodore's aunt, what did the Duke of Aten? Why then did she favor Theodore, who wasn't the crown prince? Atina affirmatively states that the concubine Anal, Theodore's mother, was the oldest daughter of Count Sherrit and a maid of Selin at some point in time, with whom they were familiar. The teacher menacingly states that she did not know how well the student comprehends the history of the empire. Looking at the girl, the professor says that she would like to hear her take on Martina and Theodore's last conversation. Ah states that there are several scholars who have their own account of Martina and Theodore's last conversation. Many think that the future empress schemed from way back in the beginning all the way to deliberately cloud the mind of the king and take the throne over. The teacher is not behind and wants the girl to say what Miss Ah's inner thinking on this is. The professor is glad in her opinion that the girl won't dare contradict the great historian and is listening eagerly for the reply. The girl gazes at the table and considers that she has once more complicated her life and should mind better in the future. Asa stands up and affirms that Theodore's betrayal was most punished by Martina's life. The girl blushes and explains that according to her, Martina loved the king from the very start. The professor removes his glasses and warns the student if she wants to tease her with her response. But then the bell rings. Literally a second later. There is not a single student remaining in the class. Ka smiles and tells that Sis did it again and broke the rules of the teacher. The girls walk down the corridor, and Ah tells that she was just looking out the window in class. Ka glances at her sister and understands that she is unique. The younger sister is a genius. She came to speak far earlier and more quickly than anybody else. While everybody else was only learning to walk, Ah was already reading mountains of books on empire history. Parents were also teaching Ah manners and courtesy at the same time as their older daughter. A lot to the surprise of everyone. The youngest out of the sisters learned these within 3 days, emulating what her sister was doing. Ka locked herself within her room and declared that she would no more learn along with her sister. Evening. The mother reports to the girl that she is so intelligent for her age, and her parents are proud of her. The mother hugs Kand and tells her daughters are the best. But Ah is one in a million, and you simply have to take it. At night, Ka awakens from her little sister, who has come into her bedroom with a stern face. Ah asserts that her sister doesn't need to judge herself, or else it will torment and shackle her until death. Some years later, Ka sees her younger sister holding out against the new escort knight. Sir Hang, the man in despair, apologizes to the girl and concedes that he was wrong. Atina coldly tells him that if the knight continues like this, he will be unable to save her father and get killed. Seeing her elder sister among the bushes, the girl stands up and walks over to her and asks her to promise to keep everything she says a secret. Astina tells her that the father will be displeased with the inefficiency of his subordinate. Khan is certain that her father will be angrier that her sister is being taught fencing. But Asa is positive that being weak is so much more dangerous. The younger sister promises that she will share Ka's dessert with her for an entire month, if she will promise to keep it all a secret. The elder sister thinks and recalls that during early childhood, Asa talked like a 60-year-old man in a 5-year-old child's body. The girl informs her sister that, be that as it may, she can't argue with the professor if she wishes to see her studies through to graduation. Suddenly, Asa clearly enunciates the name of the founder of their empire, Martina Oendita Carabella. The girl thinks back considerately that the family prefix de was employed by the Marquillas in the kingdom of Blanche, and Martina then became queen. Ka appears that the empress really did not remove from her name the previous title bestowed on her by the traitor. The girl merely recalled the name of the empress as it was accounted for in textbooks, but never even considered its origin. Suddenly, the sister proclaims that Assad did not want to relinquish the name bestowed on her by Theodore. Ka glances at her sister in surprise, and she, realizing that she had confused the name, rushes to admit that she spoke wrongly. The girls walk along the court, and Ka knows that her sister is so close to Martina's emotions. Asa admits that she is close to the ex-emperor almost better than herself. All of a sudden, their friend Rachel comes running to the girls, clutching some documents in her hands and suffocating with tears. The student informs that she had read a letter meant for Ka mistakenly. Atina takes the documents away from her hands and starts reading cautiously. Rachel laments that she feels embarrassed over the mix-up, but the letter is terrible. Ka asks in surprise what is in the letter, but her sister keeps reading attentively. Unable to stand the suspense, the elder sister screams loudly that the girls tell her what happened at once. Asa looks at her sister with a stern face and doesn't say anything. Rachel starts telling about the letter. It writes that Ka must marry the Duke of Aitont. The girl understands with horror that they are speaking about the famous monster Duke, Theod. The mother states that under breaking news, the business of the father has faced a serious crisis. The man had invested all his wealth in exports, but the ship that had the merchandise got stranded in a typhoon and sank. Due to astronomical debts, the house they are occupying is to be seized from them. But the Duke of Atalanta, with whom the family had done business, offered to settle all their loans. The deal will be finalized on the basis that Ka weds the Duke of Adelant. Towards the end, the mother writes a letter that there was no choice, and the destiny of the entire family is now relying on the girl. The wedding will be held a week from now. Thus, Ka ought to depart early enough so that she can wade through all the preparations. Ka claims that she must go back home, turns around, and hastily exits the room. The Duke of Atalanta, a home of deserving vassals from the onset of the reign of Blanche, the home kept holding on to the name as faithful vassals, even after the establishment of the Carabella Empire. By all rights, a household as insignificant as Rate would never get close to one of the oldest and honorable homes of the empire. But the dukes have one serious issue. The head of her family at present was a beast with a furry body, and nobody knew exactly why and when Theod van Adenta became so. Ka slams the closet door shut and finds that she has nowhere to go. A girl should marry and be pregnant with a child from someone who murders people. Ka felt that she was just asked to go and die. Listening to Asa's footsteps, her sister tells her that the girl must know why she sometimes teased her. Ka tells her that although her sister was a bit weird, she still loved her a lot. Suddenly, the girl falls on her sister's neck and starts crying bitterly. Asa claims that at no price should she get married. Ka firmly confirms that they are the descendants of Count Rate, and now her turn comes to complete her duty, and this is how a noble lady gets married. Asa gets terribly angry and claims that not every noble lady marries in expectation of death. Ka starts weeping and mourns that she has no other option because she can't escape and live her life alone. The girl weeps and says that if she doesn't agree to this wedding, the entire family will fall apart. Atina gently says that they cannot afford to sell their sister's life due to their father's error. Ka is certain that even a genius cannot grasp the foundations of this world and asks her sister if she has any idea what happens to the fallen aristocrats. The sister matter-of-factly says that men become convict laborers, and women become somebody's mistress or prostitute. Asa obstinately asks if others' suffering is dearer than Ka's own life. Ka replies emphatically that no one can do without honor, so the problem is not being discussed. Asa offers her hand to her sister and says it is already late, and the girls should return to this discussion tomorrow evening. The students discuss the recent news and note that Ka even skipped dinner and will sleep with Miss Asa today. The sisters are in bed and recall that they have not slept together in 10 years when they were kids. When Ka had nightmares, Atina would come and calm her sister down. Of course, this would be the last. The girl glances at her tearfully weeping sister and believes that she can't let her go. Astina gazed gloomily with vacant eyes and concludes that she must do all in her ability, but not let this wedding take place. Suddenly, the younger sister thanks the older sister for not revealing the secret and not telling anyone about Sir Hyzen. Atina goes on to say that she was caught when she wanted to steal the sword of the knight. The girl recalls how the Sir gave her a wooden sword and vowed to give her his a family heirloom if she could hit him once at least. With a laugh, Ka finds out that her sister defeated the knight, he lost his family treasure, and turned into an alcoholic. Asa confesses that she returned the sword before entering the academy. Ka informs her that she was merely glad to find out that her sister would study together with her in the same department of politics. Asa covers her sister with a blanket and informs her that she needs to sleep since she will have to get up early tomorrow. A bit later, the girl listens to her sister's breathing and ensures that she is asleep fast. Asa wakes up, gathers her belongings quietly not to make noise, and exits the room. The girl realizes that she is walking through the halls of the academy for the last time most likely. She will never have a chance to graduate. Visions of kings come before Asa's mind, and she realized with desperation that this time, she will not have a normal life. When the girl was 3 years old, she realized fully about herself and was shocked to realize that she had been reborn. The girl can't make herself aware why she remembers her past life, because more than 100 years have gone by since she died in Martina's body. Realization of everything like this was depressing and disappointing since all Martina's friends were already dead. The face of Theodore comes in front of the eyes of the girl, and she hopes that perhaps he too was born again at some time. Asa realizes that she is no longer Martina now and must accept this reality. After she had decided to accept herself in another shape, the girl wanted to live her life openly and work for her family in loyalty. Astina goes towards the stable and thinks that the event that has passed has changed her destiny. Coming to the gates of the academy, the girl knows that Ka, who lived a cautious life, will die as the wife of a duke. Suddenly, Atina notices a man at the gate, but he is too small to be security. Ka blocks the driveway of her sister and angrily demands she halt. The sister asks in surprise where Asa was going without warning. The girl very smoothly answers that she is going to the Duke of Atalanta. Ka cries out in anger that her sister is too confident this time. Her adversary is not a male but a beast. Asa reluctantly hangs her head and states that here, she can slay him with no remorse at once. Ka seizes the reins and urges her sister to take her away with her. Asa states that in this case, there is absolutely no possibility, but her sister obstinately insists upon the truth of the fact that she must depart for certain. The girl glances at her sister and, after maintaining silence for an instant, coldly states that she does not believe so by any means. Understanding that she has nothing else to do, Asa pushes away her sister aggressively and vigorously, forcing her to relinquish the reins. Drowning out her sister's wails, the girl spurs her horse and gallops hastily away from the academy. In the Italant mansion, the men were sitting at the table, talked about that it has passed nearly a year since the young duke transformed into a monster. One of the men mentions that the 5 individuals who went into the young man's room perished, so they don't have any hope of an heir anymore. Besides, Oliver, the young master's loyal butler, sadly recalls how it all started a year back. The butler said he did not recall the last night. The young man mentions that because of repeated attacks, he barely sleeps at night, but has no recollections. Oliver, understanding what the Duke is saying, screams in terror that this just cannot be. The great dukes of Atalanta have changed 15 times in the last 100 years. Out of these dukes, 10 died before adulthood, and the other 5 served out their terms of office after their titles. The inherited illness was that men went mad in brain and became monsters. Symptoms start with cracking skin, hair growing everywhere on the body, and nails transforming into claws. Then things go worse, and the man ultimately becomes insane, transforming into a monster. The man realizes that they have lost their guard because the gentleman's symptoms began to manifest much later than they normally do. Another man says that if he knew what would happen, he would have feared the air beforehand. Baron Vernon says that every opportunity should be seized because even animals could mate. The men start screaming in terror that the Baron is treating the Duke like a wild animal, and except no one would consent to marrying a monster. Vernon matter-of-factly explains that the case must employ a troubled family. The Baron states that he is prepared to hear other offers, but silence reigns in the hall. The vassal also adds that if all remains the same, Atalanta's house will collapse. A week later, Oliver glances out of the window and presumes that the day after tomorrow, the lady from Rate's house must visit the palace. The man decides that the entire proposal is shameful and rude, and he did not wish to be in accord with Baron Vernon. But even he waits for a miracle. Oliver can't help but wonder why they have chosen to send Rita's youngest daughter, who is renowned for being the most beautiful and intelligent one, rather than her eldest. Out of the blue comes the knock on the door, and maids call out the butler. At the door, Oliver notices a woman wrapped in a cloak. To the surprise of the servants, off goes the girl's hood, and she apologizes for showing up earlier than needed, then introduces herself to Oliver. There comes Atina Rita, who has come to wed the Grand Duke. Oliver can't believe the girl came a day in advance and even alone. But A responds that she had ulterior motives. The girl explains that she needs to get all the people properly, but she is so tired that she asks to delay all the ceremonies for tomorrow. The butler walks Atina to her chambers and feels that the girl is acting very strange, as if she were racing to die. Oliver remembers his task, bows, and tells that he is happy to accept the lady to the Atalanta house. Ah turns and answers that she is happy to have found the home of the Empire's first knight. Oliver is surprised that he never thought he would hear such a statement from the mouth of a young woman. While bathing in the hot water, the girl feels that she is very tired due to the powerful rush. Atina believes that if she had remained even for a moment, Ka would definitely have chased her. Having rushed home, the girl straight from the door inquired why her parents were shoving her sister away. Ah cries that her sister will not be able to resist the monster, and she will die in vain in his house. The mother collapses on her knees and screams back that if she had the least choice, she would never have left her daughter in the hands of death. The girl defiantly says that she herself will go in place of Ka, and this is all her choice, not her parents. Ah believes that if her family was poor, then they would have nothing to lose. The girl slowly prepares with the help of the maids and thinks that first of all, she has to evaluate the Duke's condition. Ah is not opposed to giving birth to an heir, but if this does not occur, then she will have no other option but to kill him early. In the early morning, Oliver knocks on the chamber doors, but in return, there is silence. The butler is also frightened that the girl has escaped, but suddenly footsteps are heard behind him, and the voice of a woman utters what happened. The butler turns around and is shocked to find that Ah somehow returned from training at such an early time. Oliver shows the girl an envelope and informs her that it is a marriage contract. The girl is astonished that she has never heard of such an immediate marriage, but it is going to be even better for her. Ah enters the chambers, takes a seat, and starts to read the document slowly. The lady regrets to mention that the name of her first husband, Theot von Talent, closely resembles the name Theodore. Oliver orders the girl to read it all slowly and ask if she doesn't get it. Asa hands the startled butler the documents and explains that she has already signed them. The butler gazes at Asa quietly sipping tea and finds that it does not resemble that she was sold to a monster. A little later, a woman who introduces herself as Rebecca Pallet approaches the girl and tells her that she will assist Asa in her case of her unity with Duke. The lady thinks that it is too absurd to wed a man whom she has never seen, and now on her wedding day, she will spend her first wedding night. Rebecca bashfully reveals that she will prefer to make an approach here cautiously because she fears hurting the girl's delicate heart. The woman communicates that the greatest challenge is that Duke Theot turns into the shape of a wolf these days. Rebecca presents very solemnly an announcement that the young's first wedding night will take place in a similar guise. Ah thinks from a distance that at least the wolf is a handsome animal. It would be so humiliating if the Duke was a giraffe. Rebecca says mating in animals is nothing like human mating. Ah is far from being humiliated and asks what precisely the difference is, which thoroughly puzzles the woman. The girl glances outside the window. She thought that she had already passed all the circles of hell today. She understood that she still had to go through much. Atina firmly goes to the Duke's chambers and believes that if anything ever is going to happen, she will kill him first. For the first time in a very long time, the girl feels that she is being used as a tool to an end and not as a human being. An image of Theodore occurs in Asa's mind, informing him that he has one more favor to ask. Martina is appalled and informs him she cannot possibly do what the king is asking her to do. The man insists that the girl must do this for her own good. The girl, with tears in her eyes, wonders why Theodore is so cruel. Atina rejects vigorously memories and makes up his mind firmly that all this is past. Earlier, Baron Vernon had uttered that in case the girl dies, then all their efforts will prove to be futile, so they should employ every means to rescue the Adelant family. The man brings out a bottle and utters that this is medicine employed for Animal Crossing. The men start praying in fear, but the Baron assures that this will prove helpful in their chances of success. Oliver, having heard that conversation, confesses to the girl that he is immensely ashamed. Due to his greed, he committed many sins. Ah strongly proceeds towards the Duke's chambers and declares that she will now at last see her husband. The girl turns towards the butler and requests him to smile because today is a joyful wedding day. Asa believes that she has to do anything for the promised amount to her family, and, at the same time, not murder the Duke. An hour later, the old maid orders Oliver that they should allow the young maids, who may become frightened due to seeing blood, to go. The servant informs that he has prepared sedatives that have the ability to knock even a bear from the wild to sleep. The butler overhears with fear the stillness beyond the door and concludes that if nothing materializes after an hour, they will need to enter the house. Abruptly, the door creaks, and Lady Atina emerges from the darkness of the room, startling servants. The girl pulls on the wolf by the paw and informs them that they have a little problem. Atina gestures toward the insensible wolf and informs them that he has no interest in mating at all. Going into the Duke's chamber, the maiden lights a candle and inspects with distaste the hearth there. Before the curse, Theot was the favorite bachelor with a face exceptionally handsome. Entering the rooms, Ah is happy to see a sword on the wall. Removing the sword, the girl opens the lock and enters the cage with the beast in front of her. On a meager bedding lies an enormous white wolf, having a scary look that really looks like a monster. The wolf releases a sharp howl, jumps from his position, and charges straight into the floor. Girl Ah stupidly sidesteps, avoiding the blow, and readies her sword to attack. Stunned by the defiance, the wolf glances at the girl in surprise without knowing what else to anticipate from her. The beast rises to its full height, the hair on it bristles on end, and the beast lets out a deafening roar. The wolf attacks Ah again and again, but every time, the girl dodges the attack with ease. The lady realizes that the wolf is powerful, but he is a beast, and his method of attack is very rudimentary, so she can anticipate him easily. After waiting for the next leap of the beast, Asa jumps up and hits him in the belly with all her strength. The girl gazes at the prostrate monster and thinks that as a competitor, he is nothing but himself. Asa thinks that she must finish what she has come for and seizes the wolf's hind paw. Suddenly, the beast stirred and gazed in amazement at the girl between his legs. Suddenly, the eyes of the wolf open wide, and he starts to whine sorrowfully, gazing intently at the girl. Getting out of the room, Ah wags her hand and says the Duke is heavy enough. The lady says the condition of the Duke is worse than she intended to see. Asa sees the beast and understands that he is delicate, and she can't hurt him. For safety, as per the marriage agreement, the girl must bear the child of the Duke, but she knows not what she would do if the wolf refuses. Having taken into consideration after some moment of reflection, the Duchess instructs the butler to get a stiff chain. The girl adds on further. The room is dirty and dark. You should have the servants clean it all. After putting a collar and chain around the wolf, Ah takes him outside the gardens. In shock of all, the beast obediently and quietly accompanies the girl to the tree. The wolf cheerfully stands on its hind legs and starts munching on apples because Ah believed fresh air and exercise are what's called for. And really, it doesn't matter whether for a man or for a brute. The Duchess is implying that the beast ego very probably endured miserably from loneliness and solitude so long. The maids peep out of the window in utter amazement. Not only did the maiden live, but tame the monster. One of the maids dreamingly quotes that this entire scene reminds her of a fairy tale of Beauty and the Beast. Another girl taunts that the entire scene appears to be more like a housewife and her pet. In the other window, the Duchess is gawked at by the maid and is contemplating how she came out alive. The girl puts her hand over her stomach and thinks that if anything goes wrong, then she will be done. Ka hasn't left her bed for a week now. Her concerned friends are trying to pacify the girl and stuff food into her. Ka unfortunately thinks that her sister had chosen to die for her, and she herself proved to be a coward and did not have the courage to live alone. Returning home, the girl found out from her parents that Ah had already gone to the duchy. Ka cried in hysterics. Her mother blamed her father for everything, and all he could do was pray. The girl covers her mouth with her hand, thinking that her little sister is most probably already dead. Suddenly, one of the students hands Kana an envelope and says that a letter has come from the duchy. The girl grabs the letter and begins reading, and her friend cautions her to take a day off and come home. After reading the letter, Ka discards it, jumps out of bed, and begins to run. The sister announces everyone that she is safe and pleads Kat not to worry, that she did not marry. The girl rushes along the corridor, keeping her sister's words in mind that she will do all she can to go back home within about 1 year. Kana was lost in thoughts so much so that she didn't notice the student who was approaching her and ran into him straight. The young man explains that his name is Benjamin Lindros, and he frequently sparred with Ah. The student nervously inquires if it is a fact the girl married Duke Fiat. Benjamin shakes his hand and says with a smile that Ah has a special tactic that makes the loser feel humiliated. The girl wipes her sweat with her hand and advises the young man to study more and not waste time on empty talk. The guy notices that his friend is a talented fencer. But then why does she have such a terrible weapon? Atino directly states to her instantly embarrassed friend that unfortunately, she has no money. The lady admits that her family is against fencing, so she could only buy this poor sword with the pocket money she saved. Benjamin walks down the corridor, carrying a brand new sword in his hands, a gift for Atina, when he suddenly stumbles upon gossiping students. The guy freezes and hears that the girl's family actually sold her to the Duke, with whom a marriage contract had already been signed. The student is horrified to learn that her friend's husband is the very famous Duke Theod. Ka clenches her fists and tells Benjamin that these are not rumors, but the pure truth. The girl, with tears in her eyes, tells the student that her sister went to the duchy in her place. Benjamin is stunned by the news. Until the last moment, he hoped that these were just stupid rumors. Suddenly, Ka shouts that despite everything, her sister is alive. She just received a letter from her parents. The girl says it's time for her to go and get ready to go home. Benjamin is glad that Ah is okay. But everything happens so suddenly. What is really happening? Meanwhile, the Duchess carefully studies the books, learning very useful information, and gradually begins to understand the basics of training. The girl looks at the wolf, extends her hand to him, and decisively tells him to give her his paw. The beast growls, and then quite noticeably hits Atina on her outstretched palm. The girl realizes that the wolf quite deliberately hit her hand and wonders whether this can be considered fulfilling an order. The beast rises to its paws and bares its teeth. Ah realizes that he still has a bad attitude towards her. The girl gets up, calmly approaches the wolf, and in a quiet voice orders him to sit. The beast gnaws the bone and does not even look in the direction of the Duchess, completely ignoring her order. Asa thinks that it is not easy for an animal to understand her voice orders without guidance from her hand. The girl puts her hand on the wolf's shoulder and presses lightly, making it clear what exactly she wants from him. After a couple of minutes, the beast sits down. Asa happily praises him for his good work. The Duchess strokes the wolf's head and thinks that by being trained, he will be able to live among people after she leaves this place. The girl looks at the animal, which reminds her very much of Theodore, and decides to temporarily call the wolf Theo. Suddenly, Baron Vernon appears in the garden, who angrily says that although the Duke is now out of his mind, he is nevertheless the girl's husband. Oliver informs the dazed Duchess that this is Baron Vernon, one of the Duke's vassals. The girl replies with a smile that she believed the Baron only capable of intrigue behind his back, but he has finally proved himself. Turning away, Asa says that as is to be expected, the man has no sense of shame. The Baron is amazed in wonder that this little trash still dares to be insolent, playing at being a duchess when she was sold for cash. The girl indignantly says that the Baron should remind himself more often who she is, and not as if he were her overlord. Asa calls on Vernon, and says that the Baron is not displaying his respect to the Duke with his arrogant discourtesy. The girl extends her hand and scratches the chin of the wolf, which delights the beast. Atina replies that she is the family matriarch until the Duke comes to his senses, and the Baron would do well to remember this next time he tries to cross over. Vernon persists adamantly that his words are an affront to his lordship, and he, as his vassal, cannot remain indifferent to this. The Duchess remarks that it is amusing to hear such words from the person who caged the Duke and issued the order for his breeding. Oliver pines over the young lady with admiration, and cannot see where such self-confidence came from in her. Ah pats the Baron on the shoulder and tells him that if he knows his place, he can go. The Duchess asks the butler what the Baron left behind in the castle, to which Oliver responds that today there is a vassals' gathering. The girl suddenly turns around and asks why she knows nothing about it. Oliver tells her that the Duke himself has always attended the gatherings, but Ah tells him that the time has come to break these rules. Leading the wolf on a leash, the Duchess goes to the castle and tells her that it is time for her to make her authority stronger. The Duchess makes a note and asks the butler to stamp it, which he does on behalf of the Duke's signature. Oliver holds out the seal in obedience, wondering what her ladyship is doing. The girl holds out her hand to Theo, who is on the floor, and says, "Give him his paw." After putting a seal on the wolf's paw, Atina stamps it neatly on all papers drawn up. Oliver bends down to the girl and gets permission to inquire what kind of papers these are. The Duchess reads that by this document, Fiat Van Atalanta trusts his wife to the very end in this marriage union. Atina places the sword on his back, rightfully concluding that it would sure not be superfluous by now. Oliver knows the vassals would not be happy that the Duchess stole the seal, but would just love to know what she is doing. After Vernon, one of the vassals states that her ladyship doesn't know what her position is, and doesn't know how she owes them all. The Baron is angry for reporting that he has ever been so embarrassed in life before. The gentlemen debate that Rate's family would have knelt if not for them, but the lady decided she now had authority. Oliver opens the door politely, and the Duchess enters the hall with Theo by her side. The girl sits and says that her name is Asa van Atenta, and she is very happy to find everybody there. Baron Vernon leaps up from his seat and says, "What is her ladyship doing at the meeting?" Asa asks smilingly if the owner of this house has a reason to see what is hers. The Baron gets into a fury and tells the lady she can't be mistress of this house, while his lordship draws breath. The Duchess shows everyone the power of attorney and says that she will not listen to any objections unless they are brought by the Duke himself. Asa turns to the wolf and asks him if everything is to his taste. Theo, as a response, looks at the girl with adoration. The girl goes back to her chambers and thinks that even from one vassal, one can make the conclusion that they are all alike here. The Duchess orders Oliver to bring her all the reports on the state of affairs in the duchy. The butler gazes at his mistress with admiration. He has never seen such women, and if Empress Martina was alive, then she would most likely be just the same. Meanwhile, in the capital, Benjamin informs his father that he desires to abandon his studies and head to the Duchy of Atalanta. The young man states that Al wedded due to her parents' debts, and if she is doing so by compulsion, then he must rescue her. The man is questioning if his son has some clever scheme to compel the girl to divorce the Duke. The guy says that he will have to utilize all his knowledge of the law to nullify the marriage, and if not, then he will have only one remedy. Benjamin bitterly explains that Atina is not just his friend, and thoughts about their friendship at once pass before his eyes. 6 years ago, a student was passing by the square when unexpectedly he noticed some group of people in ear-piercing shrieks moving toward the guy. He learned that some girl was attempting to fight for her right to use the training ground. Benjamin sees a small young girl and is pondering how she had the resolve to engage in a fight with an area strongman. The girl says that all the students at the academy are allowed use of the training grounds. Adol glances at the smiling girl and says she should lose herself while still alive. The lady states coldly that it is not likely anyone who judges by looks will be able to become a wise knight. Asa advises the guy to change teachers because the knightly nobility which he was taught is so grade school. Benjamin observes that even though the girl talks funny, she does not give an inch to her adversary. Adolf invites Ah to demonstrate what she can do and cut the logs which lie behind him. All of a sudden, the lady throws a glove in the direction of the fellow's face and says that she, Atina R., challenges him for a duel. Adolf holds up his sword on the top of his head in hopes that the girl would not be able to withstand his blow with such small hands. Ah easily repels the blow, leaving the sturdy man totally perplexed. All of a sudden, the fellow's sword falls out of his hand, and the girl has her sword at his throat. After a few seconds, Asa sheathes her sword and warns Adolf not to be on the premises when she shows up. Suddenly, the man bursts out crying, and the girl blushes, thinking that she overdid slightly. Surprised, Benjamin moves towards Atina, introduces himself, and tells her he is happy to meet her. The student tells him he saw everything, and the girl master impressed him, so he too would like to fight with her. Sensing the lady's confusion, the man confesses to relying on her because there aren't many souls at the academy as skilled in a sword. Ah turns her fury into mercy, receives Benjamin, and tells him that she will be happy to train with him. A month later, the young ones are working hard, And the fellow can't help but smile that after that meeting, Adolf is nowhere to be seen. Quietly chops wood. Benjamin, in surprise, asks why the girl works so much if she is working at the Faculty of Political Science. The lady replies calmly that she is just building herself up, because it is too risky to be weak. Benjamin confesses that he picks up fencing, because one time he couldn't defend someone who needed to be defended. The girl replies that in this instance, the fellow will have to get even stronger, and proposes raising his sword. The student, blushing, concedes that Asa's oratory style causes him involuntarily to wish to bow his knee. The young man sees the sword, which was especially designed for the girl, and firmly thinks that no matter anything, he will assist her. Baron Vernon furiously thinks that if his plan had succeeded, then the next 3 generations could live happily ever after. But the impudent girl ruins all his plans. The Duke's vassals drooled over his enormous fortune and became even bolder when their master turned into a monster. They believed that if they managed to preserve the family at least formally, then the next 20 years would belong to them. This was the case until the appearance of who declared that she herself would take care of the Duke. One of the men declares that the Duchess is just a woman, and it will be enough to intimidate her properly. Vernon suggests starting a scandalous rumor that the Duke's wife disappeared in the dead of night. The Baron receives approval from other vassals and says that they need to think about who can kidnap the Duchess. Suddenly, the door to the hall swings open, and a man runs in, shouting that they are in big trouble. Ignoring the dissatisfaction of the vassals with such a strange appearance, the man reports that Baronet Ardell has been arrested. An hour earlier, Attila was sitting in the Duke's office, studying papers. From the documents, it is quite clearly clear that things are going very badly on the estate, and most of the money ends up in the pockets of the manager. Oliver reports that if her ladyship wishes to see the manager, then Baronet Ardell is standing at the mansion. The butler says that the man came early in the morning to protest to her ladyship, but he decided not to let him into the mansion. The Duchess notices that all this is very interesting and, calling Theo, offers to go and look at the baronet. The wolf faithfully puts his paw on the girl's hand, and Oliver thinks with amazement that before, no one even thought of coming closer to him. When the Duke becomes too much of a pet, the butler experiences mixed feelings, but above all, relief. Atina tells Oliver to take the knights as an escort and bring Baronet Ardell to her. Sometime later, the knights bring a man into the office who desperately resists. The man angrily shouts that the Duchess is compromising social norms, and he, as his lordship's vassal, is no longer able to tolerate her dictatorship. Atina coldly says that she did not call the baronet because of the strike he staged in front of the mansion. Suddenly, an account book falls in front of the man, and he, realizing what this threatens, asks in horror what it is. The Duchess menacingly declares that if Ardell is so incompetent, he will lose his title, but if he understood everything, he must be punished. The baronet bows his head and begs for mercy, admits that he could not resist greed. Thoughtfully taps her fingers on the table and thinks that small fry are all like that. She hasn't seen anything new. The baronet pleadingly says that for 10 years, he has devotedly served the public good. The girl states that someone who has been convicted of misappropriation of funds has no right to talk about loyalty. The baronet tearfully says that he has a wife and children whom he must feed. The Duchess reflects that the crime is not really that serious. Ardell continues that he could not support a family with a baronet's salary, which is not even inherited. Suddenly, Theo stands up and, growling menacingly, walks towards the baronet, who begins to shake in horror. Atina looks down at the man and says that she will consider reducing his sentence if he tells her everything he knows. Aside from the enormous wolf, the Duchess is absolutely delicate. The more people around her were surprised that she was able to tame the beast. The maids chattered that was able to thoroughly sweep away the vassals who stole from the master. Due to the confession of Baronet Ardell, all the vassals who embezzled in the treasury were caught. The head was the one who exercised the most influence because the Duke became a monster. Oliver estimated that there were embezzlers, but now nobody would dare to get the shrewd Duchess over. The kitchen girls talk about how Baron Vernon will now never see the light of day again from prison for the remainder of his life, and that Eliza's case has come to a point totally ridiculous. One of the girls exclaims with delight that that was what she deserved. There was no sense in relying on anyone speaking up for her. The girls say that Eliza is the very same maid, but, having set her mind to pursue the Baron, just sat on their neck. Eliza hobbles into the kitchen and wrathfully wants to know what the girls are talking about. Suddenly, the girl approaches one of the maids and slaps her face as hard as she can. Eliza is trembling with anger, and the girls are crying that she has gone mad entirely. The girl furiously vows that this will befall anyone who dares to gossip about people unceremoniously. The maid walks to Eliza and yells that now her antics are finished, because the Baron has been arrested. Eliza cries in tears to be abandoned and runs away from the kitchen. The maids exchange confused glances. Are the rumors that there was a close relationship between the girl and the Baron true? 4 months ago, in spite of Eliza's assurances that she had a fiancé, the Baron guaranteed that the job of his mistress would be extremely lucrative for the girl. The man's speeches were well prepared. He was very gentle with the girl, and at last she surrendered to the reality that she was now desecrated. This was a burden for Eliza, and she wrote to her fiancé about the separation and broke with her parents. The girl became nasty. Even trifles irritated her. Some time later, Eliza learned that one day she would become pregnant. Vernon explained that the owner's position at home was vacant, and the girl would be able to do him a favor if she received some information. Hearing the refusal, the Baron explained that he would leave her, and an unhappy girl with a child in her arms would not live quietly anywhere. Eliza attempted to get rid of the child in any available way. However, according to the will of the Lord, a new life kept developing in Eliza. The maid performed worse and more slowly, and one day, a rag blew into her face. The other maids started to blame Eliza that since she was slow, they had a lot of work to do. The girl attacked fiercely at the accusations. Rage just overcame her. Eliza went to Vernon and told him that she would do anything he would wish her to do if the man would defend her. Vernon placed his hand on the shoulder of the maid and told her that he was sure of her decision. Since then, the Baron adopted the girl as his ward. She felt power, and in such moments, her sorrow vanished. The Baron went on putting psychological pressure on Eliza, telling her that she loved him, and they lived their entire lifetime together. 4 months later, Asa visited the castle, and all that the pair had planned came crashing down in a single night. The lovely and charming Duchess, as in the ancient fairy tales, tamed the monster forthwith. Asa gained power and took over the estate and incarcerated all the nefarious vassals. Eliza knows that she and the child most likely will be cast out of the castle, and if she goes back to the village, they will stone her and call her as going to the dungeon. The girl makes up her mind to beg the Baron for some money, at least in whatever way she can. Vernon says he knows the girl will come and see him. The Baron strains through the bars and commands her to take whatever is in his fist. The man unclenching his fist, Eliza looks and sees a queer glass vial. The Baron explains that it is poison. Vernon instructs Eliza to poison the Duchess's tea. This is the only solution so that he and the girl can live. The maid obstinately refuses, but the Baron demonstrates that if he dies, then she will have no life at all. Eliza mournfully knows that if she will not listen to the words of Vernon, she too will die within a few days. Eliza enters the office, bearing a tray, and reports that she has made tea for her ladyship. The Duchess halts, pets Theo, and queries him whether he wants something to chew. Suddenly, Ah turns to the maid and recognizes that her tummy has inflated. Eliza hasn't time to utter a word, and the Duchess says softly that it is desirable for a girl not to take what she holds in her sleeve. Atina whispers quietly that if Eliza should wish to poison her, the poison would have been poured in advance. The maid collapses to the ground in fatigue and begs her ladyship to show mercy. The Duchess glares at the maid and asks her if she seriously means leaving the one who made the attempt on the sly to murder in the mansion. Eliza starts confessing that she is pregnant with Baron Vernon's child, who has already been taken away. The maid remorsefully tells her that the lady should know what happens to a woman who bears a child outside wedlock. Eliza wails despairingly that she was too afraid by everything which had been done and only wanted to live. Ah removes the poison from the girl and releases her, and says that she will call for her when the time is appropriate.